Hello everyone. Welcome to the Ocean Sound Storytelling Channel. I am the storyteller, and today I am so happy to be with you. You may be curled up under a blanket or listening with your ears on a soft pillow. Wherever you are, whatever the time, thank you for being here. Before we begin with an interesting story, please remember to like the video and subscribe to the channel, so I know you enjoy relaxing moments like this. Where are you from? Send me a little hello in the comments. I would love to know which corner of the world you are listening from. Now, relax your body. Close your eyes and let the gentle waves take you into a gentle story, a little strange, a little mysterious, but warm enough to lull you to sleep all night long. So, are you ready? Tonight's story begins. The hour approaches, gold and silver thread shimmer in my candlelit chamber. The figures of 3 noble women standing beneath a garden tree in the tapestry opposite feel as much part of me as the veins in my still, slender hands. One holds a bunch of flowers, one carries a basket of eggs, and the third stretches out her hand to a pelican. Symbol of motherhood, it is said the pelican will pluck its breast and feed the young on its own blood rather than see them starve. I can almost hear the mocking laughter of lives mercilessly cut short. In my dreams, the piercing cries of unquiet souls falsely accused. Grisly husks with popping eyes, whose contortions form a grotesque parody of life. Your time will come. We are waiting. The hour approaches, not if I keep standing, while the rest of my body crumbles. My ears hear well enough. In the early years, wigs lent majesty. Later, they covered the true extent of my hair loss. In my next dream, I enter a hall of mirrors, long forbidden in my palaces. Wigless and mask-free, I recoil at the gray tufts springing from a once noble crown. I'm dismayed by the sunken hollows that pass for cheeks, and my neck is a cavern of worms. I open my mouth to find stumps rattling in my jaw like beaten soldiers. My eyes, once glorious pools of gold brown, are blackened pits. I wake up yelling, and Cat is there to soothe my brow, as she did when I was a child. Yet Cat died years ago. You killed her with overwork. The hour approaches. Only last week, I was indulging in my favorite candies, and my neck was bedecked in a fine ruff with loops of hanging pearls. Since then, I've barely eaten, though my thirst is unquenchable. Knowing I no longer have the stomach for wine, my maids pour weak ale down my unprotesting throat. That way, I live longer. Pain and melancholy have been my bedfellows for so long. No amount of bloodletting of the body's humors can rid me of them. I must remain upright. I was once a tall, striking creature with auburn hair. Unfortunately, my womanly body was regarded as unfit to rule on account of its corruption, the result of Eve's fall from grace in the Garden of Eden. I had nightmares of a ghastly preacher shaking his fist at me and inveighing against the monstrous regiment of women whose ruling over men was deemed repugnant to nature. However, at the key moment, my imperfect flesh became wedded to the body politic. By some mysterious process, it rose above physical limitations and took on a perfect form. Early on, I learnt to suppress any sign of weakness and use my femininity as a weapon. Born under the sign of Virgo, I was married only to my people. As expressed in my clothing, I sacrificed self for their symbolic love. Over the years, this red-painted cochineal mouth has issued commands, witty rejoinders, sarcastic riposts. When it suited me, occasional snippets of wisdom. These childlike lips had courtiers running to do my bidding, trembling lest they displeased me and lost their heads. Little by little, I emerged from feebleness, impressing statesmen, and learned men alike. On my progresses through the country, I was said to have the common touch, waiting for hours to catch a glimpse. Ordinary people were touched by my concern for their comfort and welfare. Admittedly, there was precious little to be had in some of the city's hovels. You put on a good show. But the hour approaches. Finally, my supreme moment came. The defeat of the Spanish Armada turned my country's fortunes around. After exhorting the men encamped at Tilbury to victory before they set off in their cannoned ships, I emerged as Gloriana. I may have had the body of a feeble woman, but proved I had the heart and stomach of a king. Perhaps triumph entrenched me, made me more like my father. Loved and feared in equal measures, he bestrode the court like a colossus. A rule which started full of promise grew tyrannical. People feared for their lives. Now you fear for yours. The hour approaches, not if I keep standing. You may wonder how I could love a man who in one foul swoop instigated the destruction of my mother when I was not yet 3. My first brush with death. Even now, I'm unsure whether it was love or fear that drove our relationship. I never spoke to anyone directly about my mother, least of all the king when he lived. My early sagacity may have saved me during my most perilous moments. During my sister Mary's reign, my very survival hung in the balance. I died many times in my mind then. The consummate player, I played for the highest stakes and won by a hair's breadth. Even when I succeeded to the throne, I rarely let my guard down. Those I've truly trusted have been few and far between. But if I outranked them all in terms of flair, capacity, and intellect, I didn't do it alone. I took advice from the best counselors in the land, namely my dear Cecil, who served me faithfully until he died a few years ago, and whose son now takes his place. Perhaps the older Cecil didn't always please me, but without him, the burden of politics presses heavily. The well of depression, which first opened when I lost Kat, my governess and dear friend, deepened. I miss her. Take those leeches away, and let me have some peace. Nay, none of it feels like winning now. There's nothing triumphant about lying swaddled in a heap of cushions, even if they are in Richmond Palace's private quarters. Our family often decamped here to escape the turmoil of state affairs. Yet this dreamscape of towers and turrets overlooking the river has become a glorified prison. A servant stokes the fire, keeping off the last of winter's chill before spring's sweet arrival, which I won't see. With each passing day, my ladies add more cushions, so when my legs buckle from the strain of standing for hours, no bones get broken. You need to rest and get some sleep, Your Majesty, except to lie down is to face death. Your hour approaches, ignoring the doctor's wheedling. I remain fixed as the northern star. He and Cecil work in tandem. The smooth politician who isn't a patch on his father, and the oily medic grown greedy on royal patronage. Between them, they will pluck the name of my successor from their childless queen's lips if it's the last thing they do. Of course, I should never have agreed to have the coronation ring removed from my finger to relieve the swelling. I'd not taken it off since my coronation all those years ago, and nothing has been right since. However, I'm adamant that my mother of pearl locket ring remains on my finger for as long as I breathe. What happens next is beyond my control. I trust the women who wait on me will honor my wishes. Only 2 weeks ago, I was able to cast the pain aside and demand my wardrobe mistress clothe me in a fine linen dress and put a ruff round my neck. Enduring the discomfort of hoop and bustle, my face was covered in a thick layer of white lead makeup to cover the pox I was left when I caught smallpox as a young queen. The daubing of my wrists in sweet perfume made me feel almost human. Now sunken in cushions, the chime of bells reaches across our fading fields. I catch the tail end of whispers, infuriated at not being able to hear precisely what's being said. I can no longer demand they tell me or suffer the consequences. The nightmare of that fortress rising above me is upon me again. At the time, the sight of the royal prison almost unhinged me, but a mistress of deception must survive such trials. My elder sister Mary was ruling the country with a rod of iron, and the stakes were kept busy dealing with dissenters. To be so fierce in her beliefs may have been my sister's undoing. When I first became queen, I refused to make windows into men's souls. So long as people confirmed to the Anglican religion carved out by my father, they had no need to fear. Yet in your reign, you've ordered more deaths than your sister. Your hour approaches. The very mention of the tower would make the most hardened traitor's bowels shrivel, especially with the threat of torture. As a member of royalty, I would not have to suffer the horrors of Wyatt and his supporters when their rebellion failed. Although I distanced myself from all plots to overthrow my sister, every failure put me in peril. With rumors and counter-rumors circulating of my complicity, I daily faced the threat of destruction. I vividly remember that journey to the tower, passing scenes of horror and desolation. Heads and body parts mounted on spikes at the city's gates displayed the consequence of treason. As we approached, I heard the blood-curdling roar of its lions and turned feverish. To be revisiting the place where my mother had spent her last days, and to have to endure interrogation, seemed beyond me. But I kept my resolve. Any consolation in being given pleasant rooms was short-lived when I discovered the only means of stretching my legs meant having to pass the site of my mother's scaffold. If it came to it, I'd planned on asking for a French sword rather than the cumbersome axe. My mother had made exactly that request before her execution, and then had to suffer the agonies of waiting for my father to grant her wish. Much later, I learnt there was talk of sparing her and allowing her to flee to a nunnery. When the king's love turned sour, he had punished her failure to produce a male heir by getting Cromwell, his clever and formidable politician, to accuse her of numerous acts of treason. They included witchcraft and adultery, including with her own brother. No woman's name was more besmirched. She had been called the king's whore before he made her queen. But she met her death with dignity, making a wise speech to the gathered crowd. In a stroke, she was dead, but not dishonored. I gleaned the details of my mother's final days, long after her death. I dimly recall seeing her as a child. I did not live with her, and when her deliveries of lovely clothes dried up, I sensed something was wrong. In the flickering candlelight, they have coaxed me to bed, where the dark night hovers waiting for my soul. I've always been surrounded by people wanting something. The country's most senior men wait here, watchdogs to a diminishing power. Even a queen cannot hold back death forever. The hour approaches. My physician presses my wrist and clears his throat. Your Majesty, there's the matter of the post-mortem? No cutting, but with great humility. It can be helpful to know the cause of illness for future understanding and inquiries. No, and, the issue of embalming? No, it is usual practice with royalty. No, of course, Your Majesty. His shoulders slump. He will have nothing interesting to report for posterity. The Archbishop arrives carrying oils. Must speak alone. My voice cracks. Everyone to go. In the silence, the Archbishop reaches for my hand. I dreamed of Mary again. I whisper, which one? Your sister? Or the other one? My cousin. She was the Queen of Scotland. I should never have signed the death warrant. I didn't mean it to be sent. It had to be, Your Majesty. She was complicit in the Babington plot. I tell you, my hand was forced. It was unseemly. I fear God will judge me harshly. Yet, while your cousin lived, you were in constant danger. She was your ultimate rival. But then the manner of her death. Arg. She was not felled straight away. I heard her dog ran out from under her dress, howling. And then they dipped his nose into her blood. Bitter tears formed runnels in my makeup. To go the grave with such thoughts is abominable. What is done cannot be undone, Your Grace. But will I be pardoned for my sins? You will be pardoned and treated as a queen in heaven, as you are on earth. But his voice lacks conviction. Have you thought any more about the most pressing matter? The kiss of his lips to my hand is like the flutter of a bee's wings over a honey pot. They need to know. Who will it be? A vacant tear falls onto the pillow. I have no heirs, so it will have to be Mary's son, James. But I'm damned if they're getting it out of me till I'm ready. They plagued me to marry and produce an heir, although no man ever pleased them. I played along with their schemes, kept them dangling while they sought out the best alliances. My maids were bribed to report the regularity of my monthly bleeds, but in the end, nothing could induce me. When it came to it, I couldn't allow a man to rule over me. Not even Dudley, who I almost loved, at least until our ardors dampened to the warmth of friendship. But how could I forget what happened to my mother when she married my father? And his love turned to hate. Or how my sister's husband deserted her and returned to Spain, leaving her bereft and childless. I played all proposed alliances off against one another, secretly resolved to remain single. No matter that the cushions have been removed. I request the assistance of my ladies to help me out of bed so I can see the tennis court from the window. I remember Dudley, long gone, playing hopelessly to amuse me. He was, however, a fine horseman, and we spent hours riding together. The only time I felt truly free. My chief counselor strides over, touches my shoulder. Your Majesty must go to bed. A knight and leader of the Privy Council he may be, but I will not abide such insolence from a whippersnapper. Little man, you do not use the word must to princes. Your father would not have spoken so. The truth is as bitter as gall. Knowing I must soon leave this life makes him presumptuous. England will have but one queen and no master. The roar of the lion is in my ears. At my coronation, I wore my mother's crown. It fitted me well, lying in bed, strangled by unspoken words. Their waxen faces loom, pressing for the name of my successor. Will it be James of Scotland, Your Grace? My mind flips back, and I'm riding in the barge along the Thames, heading towards the tower again. I keep telling myself I'm a passenger, not a prisoner, but my body has swollen. After my sister, I am the rightful heir to England's throne. My father restored my legitimacy at a grand ceremony in 1544. These men cannot get the better of me. I'm a queen in waiting, popular with the people. I cannot be harmed. Sickened by the boat's motion, I cry out, "Let us pull over so I may recover." The warehouses line the north bank, rising up like monsters from the deep. I've slept in many beds during my life's course, often with maids, occasionally alone, never with a man, though a number tried. The one here is appropriately boat-shaped and sumptuously draped with sea green curtains, composed of flesh, blood, and mottled bruises. I will the lungs beneath my chest to keep breathing. In and out, in and out. Mere mortal that I am. Your procrastinating must end. The hour fast approaches. Jay. The name sticks like a craw in my throat. Did you hear that? The Archbishop asks breathlessly. She can't speak. In air now grown fetid, my finger draws a circle. She's making the shape of a crown. My lady of the bedchamber understands, as does Kat, my old governess, returned to help me in my final trial. Is it to be James, the King of Scotland? Cecil's voice, low and urgent, breaks through the gloom. She's nodding consent, the Archbishop says. She keeps fiddling with the locket. What's in it? Leave it. Kat covers my hand. No man dare argue. In such moments, women protect their own. The ring has 6 rubies, and the letters E and R. The letter E has diamonds set over it, and the R is enameled in blue. But the ring bears a secret. Within the hinged head lie 2 miniature portraits, one of myself and another of an unnamed woman wearing a French hood. I imagine their gasps on opening it. She bears the look of... Kat will likely puff out her chest and tell them there was never any doubt she was her father's daughter. You only had to look at her. But God bless her, she was her mother's daughter too. Lingering on the threshold, my soul must finally meet its maker. I hear Kat's voice loud and clear. Open the windows so the Queen can smell the fresh cut grass. It's being pecked at by a rook. No more prevarication. My hour has come. Stalled. I'm not gonna take a dump in a public restroom. I'm not gonna take a dump in a public restroom. I'm not gonna... Damn it. I'm not gonna make it home. And it's right there. That grim, concrete bunker masquerading as a sanctuary of sanitation. Sickly 40-watt bulbs over twin entrances generating just enough illumination for the beast to be visible in the night. Barely there, beacons of hope guiding desperate travelers to safety. Or to ruin if they function for a siren. Which to me They always have done. Late night, deserted park, squat building lurking like a gargoyle. Hard pass. I haven't avoided that place for 35 years, only to let it pounce now. I'll keep walking. It's only 15 minutes. I can hold it. I can make it. I can... Fuck. I can't believe this shit. Literally. I don't do public toilets. At school, at work, in restaurants, anywhere. My schedule has been refined over the years to ensure it's never a requirement. My plans are meticulous. My itinerary for every occasion is drafted around preparatory expulsions and drainage. The first 3 items on my agenda before any excursion are always be clean, be presentable, be empty, quickly followed by have phone charged, cash in wallet, and an escape plan, though these are secondary considerations. I can get away with screwing up on those. Bladder, too, can be humored if it refuses to comply, though with difficulty and potential for embarrassment. Empty bottles, vacant alleys. It can be done. Bowels can't. Not in any way, shape, or form. Don't even go there. And yeah, there have been close calls. Various delays have led to some near catastrophic misses when my schedule got shredded by forces beyond my control. Like tonight. When I broke a golden rule by chatting longer to a Tinder match than I should have, missing the 10 o'clock bus. It was dumb, but things seemed to be going well, and I liked her. Could have predicted the had a lovely evening but didn't feel a connection text I received 10 minutes after saying goodnight and boarding the later bus. But I let my guard down because she played the part of interested well. My bad. I was kidding myself anyway. Not like it was going to last, even if we did decide to continue. It never does. I was already on dangerous ground at that point, but it would have been okay if not for the bus taking a meandering route through every unpronounceable village in the county and getting held up by roadworks at midnight. Okay, maybe it makes sense to re-tarmac roads when there's less traffic, but still, 30 minutes onto a 60-minute trip, and by the time I disembarked, my gut was groaning. Haven't been this close to the edge in decades. The pressure, the persistence, the pain. Stumbling along like a drunken gazelle, clenching my butt cheeks, trying to think happy thoughts. But I can't. Something's up in there. I can't hold it. Not for 15 minutes. Not for 15 seconds. It's coming out, and I have to go in. To the belly of the beast. To a urine-soaked germaphobe's nightmare. To that den of depravity, again, after 35 years. FML. I bite the bullet and veer off the path, half running, half tiptoeing across a narrow strip of grass to the concrete slabbed perimeter around the monolith. It seems to inhale sharply, holding its breath as I approach, like a slumbering, concrete apparition, solidifying its presence in readiness for a reunion. I almost stutter to a halt as I reach the entrance with the faded male symbol on a scratched Perspex panel alongside. I haven't seen that up close since '89, and just being here now makes my stomach clench tighter than my ass. I want to turn, walk away, give up, and just shit my pants. But I can't let this haunt me forever. There has to be a time to face the past. That moment, apparently, is now, because my feet keep moving, and next thing I know I'm inside, feeling like I'm 13 again. The smell hits me first, a mix of stale urine, bleach, and something rotten that almost resurrects the sushi I devoured 2 hours before. Until the familiar surroundings my eyes drift over, cause it to cower back down inside. I focus on the stalls at the back of this ceramic-tiled crypt. I keep my eyes forward, avoiding the cracked mirror over the grime-coated sink, the crude graffiti on the walls, the trio of yellowed urinals that leer as I pass, like dirty old men with pissed pants. Beneath my feet, crumpled tissue and puddles of stagnant liquid squish and splatter. Above me, fluorescent light tubes flicker and fizz. What am I doing here? I almost spin on my heels and head straight back out of this reeking vault, but my gut screams and the battering ram in my bowels launches a fresh attack, splintering the castle doors and poking through. I rush into a stall, not the one against the exterior wall, or the one in the center. The one to the right, I trust is safe. Just get it over with, I think, banging the metal door shut and sliding the lock. I undo my belt with one hand while curling the other inside the toilet dispenser to feel for a telltale sheet. Safe. But even if it was empty, there was no stopping this now. Button open, zip down, pants dropped. I turn and lower myself towards a broken seat, hoping to hover and not make full contact. But I have to abandon my revulsion and ideals of cleanliness as the castle gates buckle and the hounds of hell howl and thunder through. The missed bus, the delays on the road, the sushi that clearly wasn't good. A perfect shitstorm that created a perfect shitstorm, one that leaves me quivering and sweaty. 60 seconds later, I'm still here, trying to ignore my reality. The stink, the feel of the seat beneath my fully deposited ass, the creaks and buzzes and eerie, flickering emptiness of this alien landscape, one I never thought I'd visit again. But I did. I came back, and it didn't kill me or send me screaming into the deepest pits of despair. I sigh, feel myself relax, allow my eyes to slip open. No, it didn't kill me. But this wasn't the cubicle where the nightmare occurred. That was 2 away, below the window, the one with the hole in the wall separating it from the middle stall. The hole plugged tight with tissue paper, like the one I see next to me now, as I turned to pull the flush handle. Was that there when I came in? How did I not notice? I took the time to check the dispenser. How could I have missed what was opposite? Was I that blinded by the urge to evacuate that I overlooked what's haunted me for decades? The hole in the cubicle wall with the scrunched up tissue securing it, keeping its purpose a secret until an unwitting victim comes along, innocently locking themselves into a vertical coffin, lowering a protective barrier of clothing, exposing themselves to the evil forces lurking on the other side of a flimsy plywood panel. A patient predator that chooses its prey wisely. The young, the vulnerable, the meek, sitting there and festering in the middle stall of 3, biding his time until an opportune moment arises and the trap can be sprung, until the plug can be removed, clearing a roughly carved 3-inch diameter passage between the domains of decency, like it was 35 years ago, and is again now. I can't move. I can only sit, trousers around ankles, ass glued to the seat, beads of sweat on my brow as I shock see the ball of tissue vanish. Hear shuffling, furtive sounds from the neighboring cubicle as the sound of the flushing water fades. Observe a flicker of movement in the darkness beyond the hole. And then, with a hiss, something shiny and serpentine slides through. A snake with glistening scales slithers an inch into my stall, then another. Its body flexes and sways. It tastes the air in my direction with a forked tongue. My breath catches as it stretches closer. Its tongue gleams. Its fangs drip venom. Its empty eyes stare into my soul. How is this happening? How can there be a snake? I want to shout, stand, run, but I'm frozen to the spot. I'm afraid a noise will make it angry. I'm afraid a movement will make it strike. I'm just me, here, alone, with no one to help me. I have to be still. I have to be silent. If I just keep quiet, it might not hurt me. If I let it do what it wants, it might leave me alone. Just let it do what it wants. Number. Its eyes entrance me, drawing me deeper. Its undulating body hypnotizes. It knows me in a way I thought I'd forgotten, and it thinks it can use that against me. Fear-infused silence presses down on me, filling the air with the same quiet dread I remember. But I'm not going to sit here and take it. Not this time. I'm not a kid, cowering against a dirty cubicle wall. I'm a grown man, and I don't have to let that thing touch me. I'm not going to let it attack. I twist, grab the cistern lid, faster than I should, but I don't care. Bite me if you want, I think, lifting the heavy porcelain. Bite me, and this time, I'll bite back. I don't have to. The snake is frozen, unmoving, beady eyes analyzing my every move as I break its spell. Fuck off! I shout, and slam the cistern lid against the wall, forcing the stalking serpent to retreat. This can't really be happening, I know that, deep down. This is some kind of trauma response, brought on by my return to this lair after so many years. This place where evil may still lurk. This place that should not be standing. The snake is gone, but the hole remains, and I don't want to see what comes next. I lower the cistern lid, drop it to the floor where it clatters, stand to yank up my trousers. There's paper in the dispenser, but I forego it. I just want out, no time to waste. So I reach for the door as I tug up my zipper. 15 minutes to home, 10 if I run. Then I can strip and shower and wash away the filth and putrid memories. My fingertips graze the metal latch. Open the door. A whisper, thin as smoke, stops me dead. I freeze, chest tightening, mind racing. The fluorescent light tubes flicker faster, their buzz an electric hum, like a warning. Did I hear that? Did I imagine it? Was it just another echo from the past? Hurry, let me in. That voice again, insistent, forceful, like a hand around my throat exerting pressure. A voice of authority, the kind that requires you to obey. I shrink back, swallow a lump, both hands fumbling with my belt, drawing the strap so tight it digs into my skin. It sounds the same. It sounds like him, but it can't be. Can it? 35 years later, is he still here? Doing the same thing to innocent children? Open the door. It's a command now, dominating, urgent. The door rattles in its frame and I squeeze my eyes shut. Impossible. He'd be 60, more. He can't still be here. I haven't seen him around town, not since Deborah left, and I moved back home to face my demons. And how is that working out? My eyes snap open. Anger, no, annoyance, replacing the fear in my chest. I take a deep breath and speak out. Who's there? The sound of my adult voice once again shatters the illusion. The lights aren't panicking. The door isn't shaking. The ghost repeating old words has fallen silent. Fuck this. I step forward, take hold of the latch, ready to face what awaits. If there is someone there, if it is him or someone like him, this time I will take a stand. I'm not a victim. I don't have to comply. I don't have to bite my tongue or keep a secret. I'm not afraid to confront a monster, not anymore, because the monster was always just a bully and a creep. A well-groomed reptile in a top-tier suit and fancy shoes, wearing the face of a paragon of virtue. A fake smiling avatar whose insides were rotten to the core. A symbiote who managed to hide his... Before I slide the latch and open the door, something shifts below, and I look down. Twisting into the stall, in the space between door and floor, is a mass of writhing tentacles, weaving and winding through the piss and grot coating the tiles. I stagger back, bump against the toilet bowl, watch the gray appendages approach, twisting around each other like a mass of limbs, reaching out to coil around my ankles. I lift one foot, then the other, hurriedly climb onto the toilet, clutching the top of the stall as the tentacles roll closer. They spread across the floor, curl around the base of the toilet, start to undulate upwards, seeking me out. This can't be happening. I know it's not. It's not. Get away! I shout, my voice bouncing off the tiles. You're not real! But as the words echo, a voice outside the stall whispers back. Not the same as before, but just as familiar. It's real, it says, a warm voice, comforting and gentle. I feel it before I recognize it, like a ghost caressing my cheek. Melissa? It was always real, but you tried to bury it, and it made you close yourself off to the world. I can't breathe. My eyes dart to the stall door, desperate to see if she's on the other side. The door starts to rattle again. The owner of the tentacles, still attempting to get in. I look down to see them curl over the rim of the toilet and brush against my feet. Another voice pipes up from beyond the door, stronger, resentful. You gave him all this power, Brooke accuses, forward as ever. You wouldn't name him, wouldn't tell, not even your mother, who was waiting outside when it happened. You took on that shame and let it destroy you. No, I whisper. Stop. This isn't fair. I just wanted to go to the bathroom. I didn't expect anything else. Tears fill my eyes as the tentacles reach my ankles and slip inside my trouser legs. A third voice, Caroline's my love, enters the void. You wouldn't talk to anyone. You kept it in, let it eat you alive and push me away. Her voice, like the others, stabs my heart and I tremble, blink, try to push it back in time where it belongs. Why am I hearing all this? None of it was my fault. I'm not the reason things never worked out. He is, that man, that perfect, upright citizen the town adored, the educator, the counselor, the patron of the arts and local charities, the polished liar hiding behind crumpled tissue and scrawled numbers on bathroom stall walls. He did this. And what are you going to do about it? That same low voice returns, snapping me back to attention. You think you can keep me out, locked door or not? I'm coming in. I jolt as something slams against the door, and a length of garden hose slaps over the top, thick and black, swaying as if it's alive. From its winking nozzle, a single drop of viscous liquid falls. I flinch, know what's coming. I reach out to grab it and aim it away, but the tip of the hose erupts quickly, spewing thick, tar-like goo over my face. I squeeze my eyes shut, grip the hose with both hands, howl as the ooze fills my mouth. Good boy. The voice chuckles, and I see red. Number I'm fucking not. I squeeze, throttle, pull on the now fleshy hose, feeling it wriggle and writhe warmly in my grasp. Let go! The man outside the stall shouts, trying to reel it back in. That hurts! Stop! Let go! I'm not your good boy. I hiss through clenched, grinding teeth. But okay, I will. I'll let go. I gave the thick hose one last yank, and the man howls in pain as it snaps, tumbles into the stall, drops loose and limply to the floor. The invading gray tentacles slip from my legs and shrink back, shriveling up as they dissolve, taking the hose and its dirty ooze with them, drawing the nightmare away. I blink, and everything is gone. My face is dry. The hole in the wall is no longer. The only sounds to be heard are the hum of the light tubes and the desperate, panicked pounding of my heart. I dismount from the toilet, reach for the latch, release it, and push open the door. The restroom is empty. I stumble out into the night, the fresh air welcome as I catch my breath. My phone feels cold in my hand as I remove it from an inside jacket pocket. It's late, but I know she'll be awake. Even if she's not, it doesn't matter. I hold the phone to my ear as I walk, wait until I hear her surprised voice. "Mom," I say, voice breaking. "There's something I have to tell you." The words tumble out, and with them, years of silence as tears flow freely down my face. Bob Barker and the price of cookies. If Bob Barker was dead, he apparently was making the most of it. Bev checked the date on the magazine, guessing this bundle of BLTMs had gathered dust on some post office loading dock until some chuckle-headed awoke from their civil service coma. November 2024. She angrily brushed the white hair from her eyes as the early November winds buffeted the mailbox bank, then located the mailing label that cheapened the high-tone, heavy matte cover. Bev's old stylist had been a pretentious little bee with a stack of thick, chic, hoity town and countries in the waiting area, hoping to attract a classier clientele to her shitty little dump of a shop next to the campus Domino's that smelled perpetually of pepperoni and perms. Upshot was, somebody was going to have to get their hot goss at the Gas End Gulp or the Great Clips like a normal peon this month. Thanks. Beverly L. Tryon, 107 Oakline Drive, Millington, Illinois. Bev blinked and re-examined the other two cover boys. She was pretty sure Jimmy Buffett had sailed off into the sunset not too far back. Her hairball ex would have held a 3-day wake for the man if he hadn't already cracked his parrot head 3 Februaries back on his way from the VFW to the Moose after the last of the vets cut him off. The Legion already had turned off the spigot, and Lend canned the VA shrink halfway into intake, opting instead for his former wife's counsel to grow a set and just get over yourself. The third didn't ring a bell with Bev. Dimly familiar old black guy who sported at least a 5-pack, and who might have been handsome if, well, you know. Whoever he was jamming out on some unnaturally white beach with the purportedly late Price is Right host and the patron saint of every midlife mess who'd ever dropped the mortgage on a PT Cruiser. By the way, apparently not J.D. Power's top pick for surviving a collision with anything much larger than a pop-top. She read on. Come on down. The 3Bs rock their second anniversary with Rita's and Rhythm in Paradise. Bob Barker raises the curtain on his mega canine rescue and personal crusade against poverty, while Jimmy Buffett and Harry Belafonte share their greatest hit island recipes, including the greatest cheeseburger this side of paradise. Bev frowned as a dead maple cottonwood cyclone teased her varicose ankles. She didn't care for Bob's new tarnished silver mane, and the alto sax was certainly a new one on her. Buffett wailed on his Martin guitar, part of a treasury of parrot head trivia she'd inherited along with the deed to a charred cube of Cruiser. Belafonte, she now recalled from the piece of shit Beetlejuice movie her daughter had dragged her to after the divorce. Only good part of the idiotic, blasphemous thing, though now she recalled that when he wasn't slapping the bongos, Harry was a major troublemaker, one of those. I thought he was dead. Bev heard her own cervical pop as she whipped irritably around to find 109 craning over her shoulder. Though she'd ascertained ownership, Bev hugged the slippery magazine protectively to her chest. If I could just... The maddeningly tall old busybody next door mumbled as she attempted to reach around Bev's compact girth. Bev leapt back, and the amazing 6-foot woman scooped an impossible stack of catalogs and political flyers from inside her narrow Ace Hardware box. Bev suspected she was a libtard. She kept a patch of weeds and hay between their houses with a sign about how she was a friend of the butterflies. The city wouldn't do anything about it. Must be some kind of marketing campaign, 109 chirped, extracting her own sleek BLTN from the pile. What do you think that stands for? Probably like AARP, but I got that Saturday. Huh, addressed to me. Weird. Maybe the O people sold my name to a mailing list. Bev's jaw tightened. Her neighbor tapped her ET forefinger on the mailing label. See that in the corner? 1/7. 7 freebies to lure us in, then the sales pitch. God, I thought Belafonte was dead. You know, my mom actually met him during one of Dr. King's marches. I'm freezing my ass off. Later, Bev grunted, scuttling across the street, narrowly averting a Domino's driver who apparently thought 30 minutes or it's free was a personal code rather than a desperate marketing plea. The card floated to the olive shack as she slammed the front door shut against 109 and the others, those who'd wormed into the downtown fringe with their hippie gardens and rainbow flags and black Antifa Lives Matter and socialist blue yard signs as her neighbors cashed in one by one. Steadying herself on the doorframe, Bev bent painfully to scrape the cream-colored card from the filth and fibers. This subscription is a very special gift from Aileen. We hope you'll enjoy our thoughtfully curated articles, Bev snorted, and that truly BLTN enriches your understanding and perhaps even your life. With love, Aileen. Christ, Bev breathed, dropping into the threadbare Thomas recliner Len had neglected to include in the prenup. Aileen. There was a cousin Eileen on Dad's side, and 2 Count 'em Ellens. One a little cunt on the Millington High cheer squad who'd made her senior year a nightmare. The other a bigger cunt of a cousin on Len's roster who she hadn't seen since her ex's 40th. Bev studied the 4x6, logo-embossed card. She realized the signature was handwritten. That itself seemed hinky. The magazine had slipped between cushion and arm, and Bev cursed as she worked it free and flipped open the stiff cover. Barker stood, arms crossed, in an improbably green field under an impossibly blue sky, surrounded by seemingly thousands of people, each holding a dog. Every color and size, humans and canines, and breeds Bev had never seen in her 30-mile radius of a life, or that show with that scrawny little Mexican Cesar Milano, whatever. All dogs go to heaven, but Bob Barker wants all transcendents to have a forever home, too. See page 10. As Bev polished off her Marie Callender's meal to share Italiano meat lasagna with a dessert combo of Barker and Buffett, she was certain she'd been scammed on some elaborate and epic level. The old bait and switch, Len would have called it, probably. What was the phrase? Catfishing her for her Discovery Card information, or Social Security. Bev's old pal, Wikipedia, had confirmed Barker had died in August 2023, 1 cent short of 100 of the Alzheimer's. Unless they'd discovered some miracle cure for dementia and rigor mortis, Bev suspected somebody with a computer had deep-faked up the entire photo spread like they had at the Capitol back in 2021. Buffett had nibbled his last sponge cake about a month after Barker had cashed in, and Belafonte's ticker had kicked out in April the same year. Bev read on, forsaking NCIS and then NCIS and so on, to peruse Kirstie Alley and Olivia Newton-John's favorite John Travolta films, Not What You'd Think, Platoon Uhura Lady's new stage production of something called A Raisin in the Sun, and a selection of Tom Clancy's latest poetry. The new Harper Lee and Raymond Chandler novels were coming out, and Roger Ebert reviewed Robin Williams' upcoming comedy. Throughout were more references to transcendence, something called shepherding that appeared to be some kind of Big Brothers, Big Sisters deal for adults, and other weirdo jargon with a Scientology-type vibe. By 10:30, Bev had bypassed the crossword for a last-page nightcap called BLTN bites. At first, she recognized none of the 8 mugshots lined up along the bottom of the inside back page, and she fumbled her Walgreens cheaters on to see just what this shit was all about. I'd sacrificed my creativity for what I thought were family responsibilities when I actually had surrendered what I loved for family expectations. Now, I sacrifice nothing. Tina H. Shepherding has opened the doors that kept me in darkness as a husband and father. Sergio F. As I help heal tortured and guilty souls, the cries of the camps finally have begun to fade. Gerhard W. I'd tried to treat my wartime nightmares with liquor and marriage, except I was only chasing poison with poison and a toxic relationship. Leonard T. Bev paused at that last, scrutinized the accompanying thumbnail, a beaming, tanned, mustached man who appeared to have lost a good 40 pounds and a network of broken capillaries. Len seemed to be smiling up at her, not in contempt but with an infuriatingly pitying joy. Bev frisbeed the magazine across the living room. The second edition was in the mailbox Friday, slumming with the Miles Kimball / Harriet Carter catalogs and Subway and Arby's coupons. Doris Day, Grace Kelly, Janet Leigh, and big-boobed Kim Novak adorned the cover this time, sharing a jumbo bucket of popcorn under a theater screen filled with a doughy, inscrutable face. "We too!" the blood-red headline screamed. Hitchcock's blondes talk Weinstein, micro and macro aggressions, and traps and tips for tomorrow's Hollywood TBIs. Bev's faintly glaucomic eyes did a full loop as she wondered what in the fuck a 2B was, and she turned from the trio of mailboxes before glancing about the dead, gray block and sneaking a peek inside 109. Beef and cheese and teriyaki chicken, Harry and David and Land's End catalogs, and 109's own copy of BLTN. Bev started toward 108's box, but a chipper voice shattered the frigid November air, and she tasted copper. "We have to quit meeting like this," 109 murmured, with a theatrically arched eyebrow, towering entirely too closely. "Oh, it's here. I was hoping. This would have been perfect for Thursday chemo." The WNBA's eldest draft pick looked more Panera's or Whole Foods than Arby's or Subway, pale and knobby and the color of chicken skin. "Shoot, I was hoping maybe you'd want mine," Bev lied, waving the glossy magazine. "You don't like it?" Uzdokas gasped. "I find it so affirming. You know everybody in there's dead, right?" "Everybody," Bev echoed. "Sick. I mean, what's the deal? Is this some kind of, what do they call it, cyber scam?" They don't have a website, I checked, so not really cyber. And if this is a scam, it's an awful expensive one, don't you think? Did you notice there are no ads, no information about subscribing? How do they pay for this whole production? You know what I think maybe this is about? Second chances, better choices, leaving regrets behind. You know what performance art is, right? I think maybe this is like performance journalism. Bev remembered how good fucking Len looked, considering his past stint as 240 pounds of flame-broiled road chuck. "I think you're batshit crazy," she snapped, struggling across the street with her slippery bundle with as much dignity as she could attempt to muster. Back in the cost-efficient, 60-degree comfort of her living room, Bev ripped through the December BLTN, scanning the names and faces of the dead. Cronkite, Winehouse, Plath, Walters, Shakur, Bogart, Cobain, Dr. King, Mr. Spock, the famous dead Kennedys building homes with Eisenhower, Johnson, Nixon, and a lanky and badly styled goateed fellow who, if Mrs. Werschnick's 5th grade history served her, had taken one in the balcony 4 and some odd more ago. This time, Bev snatched the card mid-flight, a gift from Aileen. "Just between us." Aileen. The tone was indefinable, the silence that followed arctic. Bev stumbled backward against the recliner's arm. Nat, do you know any Aileen? Wasn't there an aunt on your dad's side? You never listened. Bev's daughter sounded a decade older, though it had been a little less than 3 years since they'd last exchanged a spoken word. What? You never listened. You couldn't hear anything through your anger and hate. You wouldn't hear anything. God Natalie's voice broke into harsh, strained sobs. The hell are you babbling about? Bev snapped even as her fingers trembled around the smartphone. Of course, it was us too. We wouldn't hear it. Him. Her. Oh, fuck. We thought we were the victims. We were the ones in pain. But you. Fucking you. Bev was now holding the phone in both hands, perched on the Thomas's arm as if suspended over infinite space. I'm not sitting here while you fucking cuss me out. You called me, Nat shrieked, gasping and now laughing murderously. After all this time, you called me to remind me what a poisonous, soulless, hateful old cunt you are. Well, her daughter panted. Well, I guess better late than never. Right? Right? The phone slipped from Bev's arthritic fingers as she fell back into the cushion, veined legs kicking, folded and trapped on her back like a tortoise wearing its carapace beneath the skin. Nat's unearthly rage and madness crackled somewhere in the deep green pile below, a blaze her mother was powerless to extinguish. Just between us. Before the evil took hold of him, it was their little joke. One more thumbprint cookie, an extra slice of Kroger cake or Baker's Square French silk before Mom scooped him up for supper. A reminiscence or chuckle her woke daughter would never have tolerated. We'll keep this our little secret, just between us. When Aiden finally confided in Grandma, he'd turned it against her, and she wasn't going to be extorted by a spoiled, sick 13-year-old. After it all began, after Aiden began spewing insanity, his vile inner thoughts and whinings, after the wheedling and fits and the pervert libtard shrink, and the constant trips to Chicago, and the financial realizations that threatened Paula's college, and the public displays and declarations, and finally the family's exile from holidays and even communications. The cookies and cake and the secrets had halted. When Bev herself banned the boy from her home, spitting his adopted pronouns back in his face, he'd called blubbering from one of his freak friends' phones to keep her from immediately ghosting him. He was alone. Dad would no longer speak to him. Mom had told him he was a selfish brat who'd made them outcasts. Aunt Nina told Mom, on speaker no less, that she couldn't have the girls exposed to such depravity, and the church in which Nat, Paula, and Aiden all had been christened had written to revoke God's blessing on the deity's behalf. Grandma, just between us, I kind of feel more and more like just killing myself. Bev also had received a Dear John, Luke, Matthew, Mark from the Second Millington Church of Jesus, though not from quite so far up the chain and merely punching her ticket to Tuesday night prayer and gossip and the coveted holiday potluck chairmanship. It had been months since Nat had so much as dropped her a check-in text, and the atmosphere at the Catholics' Thursday public bingo had dropped 20 or 30 degrees since Aiden's, parentally, unauthorized interview on the local AM morning show. Well, Bev had reflected, calmly, tonelessly, better late than never. Oh, of course, she couldn't blame herself. Like the literal drama queen Aiden had become demanding his true self, he didn't have, nor, as Bev had quipped, any longer had the stones to face the humiliation he'd brought down on his family, on his grandma. She had nothing to torture herself over. That was on the man with the swastika and Jesus tattoos, who'd unloaded 7. slugs into the creature who was once her little guy in a Peoria LGBTQ health center lot to the tune of Genesis 1:27. Number it was the betrayal. Bev raged as she thrashed ineffectually to free herself from this final posthumous revenge, the effort sending jolts of pain up her left arm. He'd broken their pact, the little bastard. Or bitch. Finally, a young feminine voice pierced the growing fog. Bev blinked up at a figure perhaps not as lovely as Aiden had been handsome, but somehow far stronger. Better late than never, I guess. Miss? She'd been halfway down 107's weedy walk when she turned beaming to the gaunt, middle-aged woman gripping the porch rail next door, as if she were awaiting the first life raft. The long, frail neighbor woman was smiling uncertainly back, apologetic concern in her deeply sunken eyes. "Hello," the girl greeted in a rather low but somehow comforting tone. Instead of holding her stance in annoyed indecision or briskly crossing the scrubby turf between them to expedite the encounter, the young woman continued down the walk and took the sidewalk to 109. On closer examination, she was what some might call homely, slender but big-boned, crisp blue eyes, set perhaps a centimeter too far apart for standard, conformist beauty. But she moved with what Kelly's own mother might have called bearing, a confidence in who and what she was, and that whatever that was just, well, right. The girl waited at the bottom of the steps, inviting, inquiring, neither expectant nor demanding. "I didn't mean to disrupt your day," Kelly said. "I thought I might have heard something from, Beverly's a minute ago, and I just wanted to know everything was all right." "It is," the young woman smiled brightly. "So you're not..." I'd understood she had a grandson. She did. "And please don't be sorry. I was coming to see you next. You've received your complimentary BLTN, Mrs. Grambling?" Kelly's head tilted before the smile returned. "Well, yes, though I'd have to say I'm at a bit of a loss as to what exactly it is I'm reading. Full disclosure, I'm in no position for long-term subscriptions." The girl looked to the sky with a grin. "I guess, if I had to say, we're about second chances, better choices, leaving all regrets behind. Options. I'm kinda out of those." Kelly sighed. "Mrs. Grambling, do you have a minute to discuss options?" "I guess I have that. And please, Kelly..." "Aileen, the Black House. Oh, how I love the Black House. It captivates me. Fun and debauchery abound, a den of indulgence and excitement. Every Friday I find myself drawn here, and my dastardly actions always go unheeded until I have had my fun and I'm well gone. Then there is all hell to pay. I have left chaos in my wake. I am nestled as usual in a secluded corner, my little nook, where I secrete myself with a book until an interesting or exotic bird of the female persuasion catches my eye. I never actually read the book, but I find if you frequent any bar book in hand, you can enjoy a reasonable amount of time in relative peace, except for a few snorts of derision now and again. They just assume you are nerdy and have no social skills, but little do they know that I possess both a passion for literature and the ability to engage when I can be bothered. The desire rarely crops up. I plan to accumulate a choice of whiskeys, so I can survey my prey without showing my hand too early, and I can surreptitiously survey the room. The bartender is used to my appearance, so doesn't flinch at my pale skin anymore, and is happy with my custom, as the whiskeys don't come cheap here. He doesn't even attempt the petty small talk, just takes my money and nods. We have a little arrangement, a mutual understanding, where if I identify something or someone of interest, I let him know, and he in turn. lets me know what the object of my desire's chosen tipple is, and he shares with me the preferred drink of my target. I often wonder if he knows exactly what I am up to, but if so, he never lets on. If I just wanted sex, engaging solely in sexual encounters, it would be so much easier, as that's what a lot of people come here for. However, I have a distinct craving for blood, its pulsating, pumping, flowing essence. The exhibitionist in me needs the little scare that this time I just might be caught. The extra thrill of fellow drinkers breezing by as I indulge my taste buds. I have been known to get too excited and must retire to my little nook to remove the skin from my fangs to ensure they are still in pristine condition and replace their covering veneers. No, before you ask, I am not a vampire. I paid a fortune in dental work to get my fangs, to achieve my desired appearance. I will not die if I don't get to satisfy my cravings, merely languish and fester in boredom and misery. There she is, an interesting, nice, and petite woman. I used to believe that bigger women, big-boned girls, that their size would enhance flavor, make it meatier and tangier. But I was mistaken. All that excess fat and flavor only gets in the way of the pure delight of the blood. I tend not to waste my time, so I catch the bartender's attention to make sure he is aware of what she is drinking. How ironic that she's having a Bloody Mary, a drink I love. I gesture for the bartender to pour me a double Bloody Mary, and it's sent over. I pop in my little pill, and I'm ready to go. It simply makes them a bit drowsy. I'm not doing any harm, but they never have the will or energy after partaking to stop my suckling, ensuring they will not resist my advances. They'll explain away and rationalize any marks or cuts in the morning, thinking the sex got a wee bit energetic and will be too ashamed to mention to anyone a one-night stand, or as I find it much nicer to say, a fleeting romance. She gracefully and gratefully accepts my offering, and together we retreat to my secluded spot. The bite she inflicts on my neck and the lump she takes out of it is sure to leave a lasting mark that will undoubtedly become a permanent scar. The intensity of her sinking her teeth into my neck excruciating, and those fangs are absolutely real. It's impossible to deny their authenticity. As I let out a terrified yelp, the bartender, seemingly amused by my distress, adds a small pill to my whiskey as a gesture of kindness, although I can't help but feel unworthy of such mercy after what I did to his niece on his night off. I never intended to cause real harm. Unbeknownst to me, I inadvertently ended her life, mistaking her stillness being from the effect of the pill, like countless others I had met before. Now, her lifeless body lies in the cold, unforgiving, and unyielding morgue. The specter of revenge, as always, is on the menu and lingers, hanging heavily in the atmosphere and air of the Black House. I can feel my inert and lifeless body being lifted and thrown onto a cart. I am fully aware that my ultimate fate lies within the morgue. I find myself positioned next to the bartender's niece, and apart from the marks and bruises on her neck, she retains a certain beauty. I almost feel like partaking of her juices again and indulging in her essence once more. However, I suspect that her vitality has long since faded, making my lifeless form incapable of deriving any pleasure from it. I had hoped that my assailant might leave me to wander the earth forever, more with real fangs this time. But not a chance. I wasn't that fortunate. She decided to finish me off and bring my existence to a permanent close. I find it perplexing that the bartender's niece, whose name I need to inquire about, is smiling at me, despite being in a similarly unfortunate situation, albeit appearing far more attractive. Are we destined to spend time in the afterlife together forevermore? I burst into laughter when I muster the courage to ask the question, And she responds, "Mary, my name is Mary, insatiable darkness." Not the kind that comes when you close your eyes. This is something else. Heavy, dense, like the world's been erased. It's pressing down, sinking through me. I can't breathe, can I? My chest should be moving, doing something. I don't know why I expect that. Then, something else. A noise. No, not a noise. A memory. "I love you, babe." A woman's voice, warm, laughing. I can almost feel her next to me, see her face, smell her perfume, something like freshly peeled oranges. Gone? Just like that? I try to hold on to it, but it slips away like smoke. Something aches where the memory was, filling empty spaces, like something lost. Am I lost? No, I'm here. Here in the dark, here in the earth pressing in on all sides. It is cold, deep in my bones, in my flesh. No, it's wrong. I feel something slipping, a part of myself loosening, unraveling, sinking into the dark. I try to reach for it, to grab hold of me, but it's fading fast, sinking below the surface like a drowning man. I tell myself, I'm still here, I'm still someone, but it feels like a lie. Why can't I move? I try to lift an arm, a hand, anything, but everything's sluggish. My fingers claw at nothing, something below, above, heavy, settled. I should be moving, I should be. Then it hits me, clear and sharp, like a broken bone. I'm dead. I'm dead. I don't breathe. My chest is still cold, rotting. A surge of panic hits, a sensation I didn't know I could still feel. I close my eyes, or maybe they were already closed, and try to piece together bits of memory clinging to me. A bright day, a laughing face, a small sticky hand in mine. Gone. Gone before I can feel it. The weight around me presses harder like the ground itself is claiming me, holding me down. I don't know how I know, but I know I shouldn't be here. Shouldn't be this. I should be someone else. Happy birthday. Her voice echoed through me, through the dark. I don't know who she is, but the words cut through me, raw. I remember her laughing, brushing a stray hair behind her ear, her eyes catching the light in that way that always made me stop and stare. She'd squeeze my hand and whisper, "You're my forever." The words are faint now, slipping away, but the warmth of them lingers enough to hurt. I claw at the darkness. I don't mean to. I don't have to. My fingers curl through the dirt, tearing, dragging myself upward. My hands pull, dig, until I feel the damp, cold earth under my nails, grinding against bone. The part of me that still thinks cringes. The other part? It just keeps going. It's like I'm watching from far away, a thought pulsing through my mind. Get out. Get out. Not a choice, an order I can't ignore, from deep inside, where the human parts of me are fading fast. I don't know how long I claw, but the earth loosens above me, cold air seeping in, something other than the dirt. It's thin, stale, the first taste of the world outside, and it makes me feel alive. Alive and wrong. My head breaks the surface, and the night air hits me, sharp. I gasp, but the air scrapes through me like glass. The world is blurry, washed out under the moonlight. Grave markers surround me, jagged teeth against the sky. This is where I came from, where they buried me. I'm a corpse, crawling out of my own grave. The thought jolts, but it's distant, almost faint, like something I heard once and already forgot. Then that hunger, the one buried under memories, under voices, stirs, an ache deep in what's left of me, stronger than anything else. I push forward, not thinking, just moving, pulled by instinct, by the urge rising, undeniable. I'm dead. I'm broken. But I need something. I can't stop. I can't go back. The first thing I see, really see, under the sickly cast of the moon, is my hand, if you can call it that. It's a mess of sagging skin stretched over bone, torn in places, bits of muscle clinging to knobby joints, fingers twisted and rigid, blackened nails caked with dirt and something else I don't want to name. The sight, this thing I'm looking at, moving like it's mine, hits me like an electric shock, horror rushing up, strangling me. God, what am I? I try to scream, but all that comes out is a sound, low, guttural, inhuman, like an animal caught in a trap. My hand, my arm. No, this isn't my body. It can't be. The skin hangs in loose, rotting patches where it's not already gone, exposing sinew and yellowed bone. I look down and see my clothes, shredded, filthy, stained with patches that could only be. I shut down the thought, but the nausea twists inside me, pulling me towards something deeper. And then, as the horror swells, something else creeps in. It starts as a twitch, a need, deep and feral, like a slow burn crawling from my center outward. It coils in my stomach, my muscles, my bones, driving out everything else. A hunger, sharp, jagged, specific. I don't just want food. I want something else. Something alive. Number no, don't think it. Don't even say it. You don't want this. But I do. It's already there, growing, swelling, filling the hollow spaces inside until there's nothing left but the hunger. I try to push it down, to hold it back, but it's like caging fire. It flares, a force driving me to move, to push one unsteady, broken foot in front of the other, leaving damp streaks of earth where I walk. Ahead, movement, shadows, soft and slow. A person, bundled in a coat, walking the edge of the graveyard, flashlight in hand. I want to warn them, tell them to turn around, to run. Stop! But my body doesn't listen. I lurch forward. I'm watching, screaming inside, but I'm just a passenger, shackled here, while something else, some twisted, primal urge, takes the reins. My mouth opens, something wet and rotten drips down my chin, spilling onto torn clothes, but I can't stop. I'm close enough now to see him clearly, middle-aged, a little tired, maybe a little sad. He notices me, stops, frowning. Are you okay? His voice shakes, holding the flashlight up, illuminating my face. The light hits his eyes, wide with shock, as he takes in my face. His jaw drops, his lips tremble. Oh my God! Run! I want to scream. Run! But my mouth twists, letting out a moan, low and ragged, and it's enough to send him stumbling back, breath hitching in fear. He turns, but it's too late. My body surges forward, faster than I should be able to move, faster than anything this decayed body should manage. I catch him from behind, fingers sinking into his shoulders. I feel his body seize, the heat of him, the life. The hunger digs deeper, takes control of my hands, my teeth, drive into him, tearing at flesh like it's some kind of drug, some twisted ecstasy. He screams, his voice cutting through the night, but my body just keeps going. My teeth sink into his shoulder, the taste that hits my tongue. It's warm, alive. It fills me in a way nothing else can, something thick and metallic spilling down my throat, coating my mouth, and there's a sick satisfaction that follows. A relief even. Like I've finally given in to something I didn't know I wanted. Stop. Please. God, just stop. But there's no stopping. My mouth pulls back, jaws snapping down, over and over, feeling skin and muscle tear, tasting the salt and the heat of his blood. His body twists, weak hands pounding against me, scratching, fighting. But his voice is breaking, giving way to soft, strangled cries. It's him and me, my body devouring his, my mind screaming in silent horror, torn between the repulsion and the craving, both so strong I don't know where one ends and the other begins. I taste his life fading, bit by bit, until he stops moving, limp beneath me. My hands fall to my sides, and I'm left there, panting, mouth and hands covered in his blood, insides roiling with satisfaction and disgust. The hunger settles, just a little. It doesn't go away. It sits there, dark, waiting. I know it'll be back. I look down at what's left of him, the bloodied mess that used to be a person. Pieces of him are scattered around me, stained on my clothes, smeared on my hands, and I feel nothing. Not horror, not revulsion, just emptiness. Number. That's not right. There's something else, something worse. I feel good, sated. A part of me is horrified by this, revolted. But that part feels so far away, drowned by the darkness. The hunger whispering again, like an old friend, like a promise. I don't know what I am anymore, but I know what I'll do. When the hunger comes back, I'll follow. There's blood on my hands, dark, drying, almost black in the moonlight. It stains the shredded skin, sinking into the folds and cracks as if it belongs there. I stare, feeling nothing. But then a name surfaces in my mind, just a whisper that strikes like lightning. Emily. It hangs there, echoing in the dark. A face appears, flickers, blurs, her eyes dark and warm, framed by wavy brown hair. I almost feel her, the laugh that carries through time. She's saying something to me, but her voice is faint as if drowned. I love you. The statement hits me, and with it, shame, thick and heavy, curling around the hunger. And there's a weight pressing on my chest, suffocating, even though I know I can't breathe. Guilt claws through the numbness, pulling her words up from wherever I tried to bury them. But it's gone, leaving only emptiness. My head pounds, trying to piece together fragments of who I was. The flashes come and go, sharper, harder to bear. The kitchen table, a family dinner, laughter, the smell of coffee, her voice as she hums, my wife, her hand on my face, the love so clear I could cry. Then it's gone, and I'm left alone in silence. The hunger stirs again, gnawing through the warmth of memory. Another face flickers into view. A child, a little girl, with a gap-toothed smile, clutching a worn teddy bear, her eyes full of trust. My daughter. I'm holding her hand somewhere bright, laughter filling the air. She'd giggle, squeezing my hand, saying, "Daddy, let's do this forever." And I'd smile, say, "Forever, baby." I feel it, warmth in my chest, something close to happiness, something I can almost touch. The thought stabs through, sharp and real, and the pain that follows is worse than anything I've felt. I want to scream, to claw this feeling out of me, but it's part of me, inseparable. My family, I need to find them. No. And that's when it hits, the full weight of it. They're gone. forever. I'm the one left here, trapped in this rotting shell, condemned to this endless gnawing hunger. A laugh bubbles up, ragged, hollow. I'm dead, but I'm still here, clinging to what's left of them in my mind, like some kind of pathetic penance. And yet, it'll never be enough to fill the void they left. The hunger stirs again, feeding on the pain, growing with each memory, each regret. But there's something else, faint, a whisper from the last remnants of who I was. You don't have to do this. I close my eyes, letting the memories wash over me, feeling their warmth, their pain. And for a moment, the hunger loosens, slipping back, and I'm just me, a person, a father, a husband. I can stop. I'm trying to cling to that sliver of clarity. I'll stop. But the hunger is there, lurking, waiting. I thought I could stop. I was wrong. The hunger comes back, an unrelenting, insatiable beast. It doesn't care about vows or memories. It rises, drowning every thought, every last shred of who I was. All I know is the hunger, expanding, filling me like rot spreading through flesh. I stumble forward, dragging my feet each step closer to the living. A faint glow of streetlights in the distance pulls me, and even as I scream in my mind to turn back, it's too late. My body isn't listening. A man steps out of a car, his whistling dying the second he catches sight of me. For a heartbeat, there's confusion in his eyes, just a flicker of disbelief. But I'm close enough to feel the warmth radiating off him. Run, I think, but he doesn't get a chance. My hands dig into his shoulders, nails scraping bone. He tries to pull back, but I clamp down my teeth, shredding through his skin. Hot blood gushes into my mouth. It's metallic and raw, filling me with a sick, animalistic thrill. He's screaming, a primal sound that echoes through the night, but it only fuels my hunger. My teeth grind deeper, ripping flesh, crunching tendon. His warm blood splatters hot and sticky over my hands, down my chin. No, no. The words spill out, garbled, thick with blood. Somewhere inside, I want to stop, loosen my grip, let him go. But the hunger claws at me, relentless, drowning out any shred of mercy. My hands keep moving, fingers tearing, teeth sinking deeper until I'm lost in the raw, brutal rhythm, ripping, gnawing, consuming. I don't stop until he's just a bloodied, hollowed shell at my feet, a nightmare painted in red. I stagger back, wiping my mouth. I can still taste him, feel him inside like he's become part of me. I stumble away. The hunger gnaws, relentless, twisting inside me. I turn a corner, desperate to escape, but there's someone else, a woman walking her dog, oblivious. No, please, not again. I beg, but it's useless. My body moves on its own, drawn toward her warmth. Her screams slice through the darkness as my hands latch onto her, fingers digging deep, holding tight. I bite down, tearing into her shoulder, the rush of her blood searing through me. It fills me, but somehow only sharpens the hunger, that endless, insatiable need that nothing, not even flesh, can satisfy. Please, I think, let this end. Let me die. But the hunger, it stirs again. I feel it, low and insistent, an ache that won't go away. I close my eyes, hoping for darkness, for an end. But there's nothing but the hunger, whispering. And I know in the deepest part of me that this will never end. I open my eyes, hunger gnawing at my bones, and find myself on a dark street lined with familiar houses. I don't know how I got here. One moment, I was somewhere else, sinking into darkness. Now I'm standing in front of a house that feels known. The porch light flickers weakly, barely alive. My eyes trace the door, the windows, edges worn by years of something I can't name. A tightness clenches in my chest. I'm not supposed to feel anything, but this place presses on me, screaming from a fading part of me I can't reach. I step forward, feet dragging over concrete. My hand, what's left of it, finds the door. I feel the metal, cold, sinking into bone. The door swings open. Inside, the smell hits. Coffee. And something warm, like number stop. But it's too late. I know this smell, this place. My feet pull me inside, down the dark hall. I'm moving without meaning to, my body betraying me, dragged forward. The hunger, that terrible hunger, pushes me on. A sound from upstairs. A creak. Tiny feet across carpet. I know what it is before I see. The hunger digs in, twisting me, urging me up the stairs. I don't want to go, but I can't stop. At the top, a door stands slightly open, a strip of light spilling into the hall. In the center of it, a small shadow shifts. Daddy? The word hangs in the air. Her voice, fragile, like a whisper wrapped in cotton. I try to say her name, to warn her, but all that comes out is a low, guttural growl. Her eyes widen. She steps back, dropping her teddy bear on the floor. Her lips tremble. Daddy? Her face blurs, twisting, fading. But there's something else, a flicker, faint, buried in what's left of me. Love. It's small, fragile, breaking through the cracks, just for a heartbeat. Her name is there, soft and warm. I remember her tiny hand in mine, her laughter, the way she'd look up at me with those trusting eyes, the way she'd curl up against me, safe, warm. I know I would do anything to protect her, anything to keep her safe. But then it's gone, snuffed out as the hunger roars up, an endless gnawing void swallowing everything I was, everything I am, shredding the last scraps of me, chewing up memories, swallowing every last trace of who I was. What's left of me drowns, dragged down, a stone sinking in a black sea. All I hear is the beat of her heart, pulsing warm in the silence. Run. Please, baby. Run. But I lurch forward, teeth bared, hands reaching. The hunger takes over. I am gone, Ari. The heat, death of the sun. Reality was having a Monday with a capital M. Never mind that it was Thursday, or that Monday always began with a capitalized M, or that both Mondays and Thursdays only existed on Earth. That was all beside the point. Ron liked that about Earth, though, the calendars. Really, humans had something special going on with them. They were great with organizational skills, and he appreciated that, given his role as manager of accounts payable. He was just one cog in the existence machine, but lately Ron felt he might be the only one to really give a hoot about the overall health of the industry. The atmosphere of the Division of Material Validity office was drab, sure, but he found his job of keeping existence running to be interesting. There were an infinite amount of vendors that manufactured the various components of reality, and he enjoyed his role of ensuring that those accounts all got paid for their hard work. Ron's day started off fine enough. His boss, Mike, prattled through the morning meeting with his usual ennui before giving him a checklist of urgent tasks. Ron spent his pre-lunch hours ticking off boxes. Pay the universe's monthly time invoice. to keep months a thing. Contact maintenance re. Overdue space-time fabric repair on collapsing wormholes in Sector 12. B. Review discrepancy in inertia. Report on galactic planetary rotation. Forward any Earth RFPs titled, "Oh God, please save us," or similar to upper management. He got through the first two in record time, considering he paid time ahead of schedule, but the Monday-ish nature of the Thursday kicked into high gear as he scrolled through an inbox full of dismally titled RFPs. He'd always thought the DMV overpaid realities freelancers, so he was perplexed as to why there seemed to be so many slackers recently. Humans weren't the only ones having issues. The fluxers on Zemulus 237 were freaking out about Zemulus 237 suddenly rotating backwards. But given their sheer amount of messages, humans were definitely making the biggest fuss. He'd been scrolling for the past 15 minutes, and he still hadn't reached the end of this morning's RFPs to the Savior Department alone. Ron glanced across the aisle at Florence's cubicle and saw that she wore a similarly exasperated expression as she looked through them all. It would seem that endless earthen pleas to the heavens were clogging up everyone's inboxes. Ron, frankly, was at his wit's end. He dialed Mike's office phone extension. Why is Earth spewing out so many salvation proposals all of a sudden? Sun's getting too big and hot. They're having a rough go of things. Ron blinked and scrubbed at his forehead. That's odd. I paid Fusion's invoice. I know. They got upper-level orders to churn out more energy, though. Kicked it up yesterday. He sank back into his office chair and rolled his eyes to the ceiling. And upper management didn't communicate that with the rest of us because... Mike snorted. It was just a little tweak to Fusion's workload, not a big issue in the overall grand scheme of things. Ron sighed. Okay, thanks. Forwarding now. Yep. He set the phone back on the receiver and began forwarding messages up the chain of command, but paused at one rather offensive title. He read the message, feeling a bit nosy as he did so. From Alice Kincaid at Earth.universe.2. All at DMV.universe. Subject. RFP. We're dying down here, asshole. Hey, God. CNN just announced we have about 6 months before we're cooked. The sun's getting hotter by the day. I can't go outside anymore. I thought we had like a billion-ish years left. At least, that's what the Science Museum exhibit said when I went as a kid. Scared the hell out of me. Always has. But a billion years is a damn long time. 6 months is absolutely not. I would love it if you could make the sun go back to normal. I haven't done everything I wanted to do yet. Please, it's too hot. It hurts. My skin is... Please. More sincerely than I've ever been about anything. Ever. Alice Kincaid. Scowling, Ron called Deity. The line rang for a few long moments, but he was pleasantly surprised when the CEO answered. Hello? Hi, D. How's it going? Hey, man. Same old. What's up? I just had a question about Salvation RFPS. Ron could hear Deity typing something as he responded blandly, Shoot. Are you guys doing anything about him? I've forwarded several to you and the board, but they just keep coming. I was going to mark them as spam and wanted to check if you're receiving them without me forwarding. Yeah, spam them. Got it. Ron considered whether it was professional to ask further questions, but his curiosity outweighed his propriety. Are you going to respond to them? Take any of Earth's projects on, I mean? Deity laughed in an offhand way. Nah, I'm phasing out the planet. Humans are too destructive. Tarsonis's Jebulons have their act together a lot better, so the board voted to sell off Earth and invest over there instead. It's a stabler market. He felt a hot stab of dismay at the news and swallowed thickly. Understandable, but can I say? He gave a little laugh. I mean, I know it's way above my pay grade, but... Ron chose his words carefully as he said, humans have been our top client for a few 100,000 years. They've had some centuries of poor performance every now and then, sure, but we've always kept an overall mutually beneficial relationship. It's unfortunate we're ending it on a bad note. Deity clicked his tongue. Speak more freely, Ron. I don't mind hearing your opinion. Ron huffed a chuckle. Don't write them off our books. I like what they put out. It would be a shame to not be able to get their stuff anymore. What sort of stuff? Ron thought for a moment. Well, I enjoy all the love stories. They've got some great food, too. I tried a sandwich once. Phenomenal. And I owe them a debt for coming up with calendars. Deity deliberated silently before replying. Jebulans just created a far superior timekeeping system, and it didn't take them almost 300,000 years to do it. Switch to using theirs. The market's moving on, Ron. Progress with it. I appreciate your input, though. Tell you what, I'll bring up your notes to the board at the next meeting. We may be able to work something out. Ron's shoulders relaxed. Thanks, Dee. Appreciate it. Yep. Have a good one. The line went dead. Ron turned his attention back to Alice's message, his cursor hovering over the Mark as Spam button. He decided to archive it instead. Ron brooded the entire commute home and concluded that he found the DMV's culture and overall philanthropic approach to be increasingly lackluster. Phasing out Earth was a bad move, plain and simple. He didn't understand the decision, even after hearing Deity's explanation. Jebulans had exited the primitive stage of existence far quicker than humans had. True, but their demeanor was overzealous. The DMV's mailroom was constantly overwhelmed with fanatic offerings, and their adoration always felt just a tad too desperate to be authentic. Humans showed their appreciation for reality in subtler ways. They were intentional with it, more honest. A message of gratitude at receiving a tight embrace from a missed loved one. A whispered, I owe you when swimming through crystal water. A salute when a sore knot is worked out of a long, aching muscle. Deity was a great guy, a fantastic CEO, but he had a distinct flair for the dramatic that often left Ron dealing with a nightmare at the office. For instance, around 6,000 years ago, Deity hedged a bet that chemistry wouldn't be able to synthesize enough water for Q3 on their current budget, so he'd ordered Ron to increase their payment. Mike had warned the CEO that doing so would generate far more water than could be tolerated by planets with life forms. But Deity had simply responded that those life forms were underperforming. He'd ordered that a handful of profitable creatures be retained for improved reproduction, and the task fell to Ron to proceed with the higher payment. To this day, Ron felt terrible about flooding every planet across 4 galaxies. He settled into his nightly routine, but he couldn't get Alice's message out of his mind. He pulled up the archived message as he ate his supper. After a stiff drink, he forwarded the correspondence to his personal account, then forwarded it to Alice again with an attached reply. From Ron at personal.universe.to Alice Kincaid at earth.universe.subject FW FW RFP. We're dying down here, asshole. Hello, Alice. Strictly speaking, it goes against protocol for me to send this message, and you are the first life form to receive such a communication from me, so my apologies for any disruption to your evening. Admittedly, I'm unsure how this message might be received by a human. The purpose of this correspondence is to extend my sincere condolences for your current situation and assure you that your concerns regarding your imminent demise will be thoroughly discussed at the next meeting of our board. Please note, however, that this does not guarantee immediate action. We appreciate your patience during this time. All the best, Ron. Manager, Accounts Payable, Division of Material Validity. Ron sipped on his second drink, feeling a bit more at ease with the situation. His satisfaction dissipated when she returned a response in seconds. From Alice Kincaid at Earth. Universe. 2. Ron at Personal. Universe. Subject: indistinct shriek of terror. I apologize, but I need Japanese text to perform the conversion as requested. If you'd like me to demonstrate this capability, please provide Japanese text that includes kanji characters, and I'll convert it according to the guidelines. Ron set down his glass and frowned as he replied. From Ron at Personal.Universe.2, Alice Kincaid at Earth.Universe. Subject: indistinct shriek of terror. Hello, Alice. Your quick response is appreciated, but I am confused as to your meaning. Best, Ron. Alice's reply was instantaneous. From Alice Kincaid at Earth.Universe.2, Ron at Personal.Universe. Subject: indistinct shriek of terror. Get out of my head. Get out. Get out. Are you reading a bloody email? God, it hurts. It hurts. Ron winced, pulled out his phone, and found Alice's alternate contact in the DMV database. He dialed the number for a video call. The image of a hyperventilating woman curled into the fetal position on a dirty floor appeared on the screen. She was covered in patches of charred skin, and her hair was matted with blood in some places. Hello. This is Ron. Please forgive me for calling you at this hour, and for the pain you experienced receiving my initial messages. I wasn't aware my previous form of communication would be painful for a human. She let out a shriek upon seeing him appear in what looked to be her kitchen. Her hands tore at her hair as she mumbled incoherently. Are you all right? It wasn't my intention to startle you. Alice shot to her feet and tugged a large chopping knife from its holder, brandishing it in his face. What are you? Ron's brow furrowed. He'd always assumed humans would recognize a DMV agent, considering all the mail they sent. As I said in my earlier message, I'm the... What the hell? Manager of Accounts Payable at the DMV, he continued as she panted a string of vile curses. I read your RFP meant for the Savior Department, and I felt just awful about what's happening to your son. I thought I'd give you an update personally, maybe alleviate your fears a bit. Her subsequent screech was nearly unintelligible, but Ron deduced through the wailed expletives that she was confused about the nature of the DMV. Please, miss, calm yourself. I'm not technically in the room with you. Alice's eyes bulged, but she stilled, and the knife clattered against the tile floor. The division is quite hard to explain to a life form on your plane of existence, but the short answer is that we manage and regulate that plane. She jabbed a finger in his direction. So you're the one responsible for making the sun about to explode? Ron's teeth tugged at his bottom lip. It's a bit more complicated than that. He lost the battle against his better judgment and gave the terrified woman a simplified explanation of Deity's decision. When he finished, she sank to the floor in a heap and put her filthy head in her hands. It will be all right. The board will... Alice breathed a raw laugh. Ron looked at her with concern as the sound grew in broken intensity. Miss... Angels, she choked out between gasping fits of laughter. And God and reality itself are all just a bunch of corporate goons, and I'm nothing more than an underwhelming employee, and... Her laughter morphed into weeping. Oh, that is cruel. She was an underwhelming client, technically, but Ron didn't correct her. Is there anything more I can do to help you at the moment? He cringed at the utter devastation on the woman's face as she turned to nod at him. She was silent for a long moment, staring blankly at the heat-yellowed paint of the wall before she muttered, "Take me back to that museum all those years ago so I can tell my 10-year-old self to write a lot of books, to read a lot more of them, to learn the guitar, to become a rock star like I always wanted, or maybe an author." Her voice broke as she slowly stood back up. To hurry up and find the love of my life, because I've spent it entirely alone. To quit my soul-sucking office job, or to not even take it in the first place. To hug my mom long and hard every chance I get. To tell my dad I forgive him. To make peace right then and there with how insignificant I am. Because I am. Ron ground his teeth at the volume of her final sentence, shocked at how viscerally uncomfortable the word insignificant made him feel. "I'll be sure to speak to Deity tomorrow at..." Alice threw the knife with all her strength at his projection, ending the call. "I'm sorry, Ron. I am. But there's nothing I can do. We don't undo what's already been done." Chris, the head honcho over at Time, was being irksomely dense. Ron grumbled, gesticulating at the big machine before them. "I know that. Nothing needs to be undone, just done over again. Run Earth's clock backward a bit, only 20 years. Come on, I'll owe you one. Memories on board. They already primed the woman. We're just waiting on you." Chris ran a hand through his silvering hair. Deity approved this? Not, as such. Sure did. For one human woman? Consider it an experiment. You've ran back time before, for far duller reasons. I don't know if I'd consider what we needed done with that woman in the Chaplin film to be... Ron waved a dismissive hand. "Chris, seriously." The Time boss rolled his eyes. "Fine. Who, when, and where am I sending her?" Ron explained Alice's plight, and Chris pushed various buttons on the machine. "Just send back her present consciousness into her childhood self. That's it. You do realize that this might kill the woman. We've never reversed memory back into time before." He shrugged and scratched his nose, looking at a sleeping Alice on the screen in front of them. It's an experiment." Chris nodded, then cranked a few more dials. Adult Alice didn't move, but the child Alice on the adjacent screen. Ron cringed as the child screamed and screamed and screamed. Chris sucked in air through his teeth. Child Alice drew frightened looks from the other science museum patrons, until finally being subdued by her mother. Ron scratched his temple, chewed the inside of his cheek. The girl screeched, over and over again in her mother's arms. "What's the point?" Chris shut the machine off, locking adult Alice into her child body forever, or at least until the sun exploded. He clapped Ron on the shoulder. "Call that a success?" Ron was silent for a beat, then muttered, "Seems like the quick death of the sun might be preferable to the existential crisis brought on by simply thinking about the slow death of it. Think she'll appreciate her life more, this time around?" "Dunno. Sun's still going to explode on schedule. Board's not budging on it. He sighed. No one will remember her in the end, even if she does make something out of her life. Or maybe they will for a little while, now that she can change some things. That's all most of us can hope for, really. To not be insignificant. To do something important with our lives. He shot a triumphant smile at Chris, feeling overall very pleased with himself. At least he was able to do this. Change this small thing to help such a lovely planet. Chris shot him a confused look. Oh no, she can't change anything, man. She did all this screaming the first time around when she learned the sun was going to explode in 1 billion years too. I told you, nothing can be undone. But she will be able to watch it happen all over again with her adult memories and reasoning. Maybe she'll just learn to be grateful. Humans struggle with that. If you asked me, that's why deity's blowing him up. Ron paled, his grin evaporating. The time boss stretched his arms and cracked his back and didn't notice the color drain from Ron's face. Anyway, let's get lunch. You're buying milk-fed. The town of Gord's Hollow was gaunt and undernourished in nearly every aspect. Its rickety streets laid out like a soothsayer's tangle of oracle bones, and its bedraggled buildings stood lean and haggard, much like the people that lived in them. The whole of it was hunched at the edge of a sea cliff, and mist rising from the crashing waves below hung everything above with a constant pallor. But there, right on the cusp of world's end, where the roar of the sea filled your ears, grew the only thing in Gord's Hollow that could be called hale and hearty, the gourd garden itself. It was this garden that made Gord's Hollow famous in our county. For generations, the emaciated people of the town had inexplicably produced gargantuan gourds that put all others to shame at the harvest festival. Their crooked-necked squash were taller than a man, their zucchinis large as coffins, but it was their pumpkins that drew so much envy. Huge and round and plump, it took 2 teams of oxen just to haul them. At the festival, the pumpkins loomed large over all the proceedings, so large it seemed they could swallow all other entries and have room left over to consume the judge as well. But their size itself was not the most striking element to their appearance, for the pumpkins were also of exceptional color. Their shells were a deep, vibrant orange, so deep and so vibrant as to almost be red. And though no one who was not a citizen of Gord's Hollow had ever seen the pumpkins cracked open, it was rumored the flesh inside was the scarlet color of new blood. It was an October day when I made my visit to Gord's Hollow. They had kept the secret of their pumpkins close for too long, and I was determined to discover their methods for growing them, by honest means or otherwise. Outsiders were uncommon in Gord's Hollow. My presence drew a searching eye from everyone in the streets. Nonetheless, I conducted myself straight to the garden's fence, a spindly wrought iron affair, and gazed through the bars at the great mist-shrouded fruits inside. "They're a sight to see, eh, stranger?" A voice called over the drone of breaking waves. The speaker was slim, as were all the townsfolk, but he wore a smile as he extended a bony hand. "Indeed," I replied, taking his hand, which I noticed felt almost as if it carried no flesh. "Would it be possible to get a closer look? I am a botanist, and I have never seen such magnificent plants." "Apologies, sir, but I don't carry the key." He nodded towards the chain wrapped about the gate and secured with a heavy lock. "Could you direct me to the person who does?" Again, my apologies, but the gourds are off limits to visitors. The man smiled consolingly, and I noticed his gums were nearly the same pale color as his teeth. "Could you perhaps answer questions about them then? I am very curious to know how you grow them to such prodigious size." Folks that come here are always wondering about that. He lifted his narrow shoulders. But truth is, there's no mystery to it. They're just milk-fed and tended to with lots of care. I knew about milk-fed pumpkins. It was a simple process. A small slit was made in the pumpkin's vine and submerged in a dish of milk. Capillary action sucked up the nutrients and accelerated growth. Many gardeners in the county employed the technique, but none achieved sizes like those I saw before me. I am astonished to hear that. I have myself grown milk-fed pumpkins, but not to such a result. Most folks aren't dedicated to it the way we are here. My interlocutor rubbed his arm as he spoke. We tend to our pumpkins day and night like other folks aren't inclined to do. It's just good gardening and the milk that makes them grow. But what about fertilizers and seed selection? Do you plant them under the full moon? Of course we do, the man laughed. But so does everyone else. My name's Jack, by the by. If you have designs on staying the night, my inn is just there. He pointed a skeletal finger towards a corner building with a signboard bearing his name. You'd be most welcome for supper and to stay the night. I thanked him and accepted his offer. At dinner, two things surprised me. First, there was not a single dish served made from the bounty just outside the door. No butternut bisque, no fried eggplant, not even a slice of pumpkin pie. The second was the tremendous appetite of the locales. From people so lean and weedy, I would have expected reticence at table, but they ate with a gusto I could not contend against. Platters of steak and liver disappeared before I could stick a fork in, and where the thin men put it all, I could not say. I spent the evening introducing myself and leading conversations to the topic of pumpkins, but the line I received from every man was well rehearsed. Milk-fed and careful labor, the villagers were ironclad in their conspiracy. Jack was good enough to give me his finest room on the second floor, with a window overlooking the garden. I had a spyglass in my valise, and, unsuccessful at dinner, I hurried upstairs to see what might be seen before sundown. The mist made it difficult to gather much in detail, but I was able to confirm the diligent care provided by the townsfolk. Through my lens, I saw at least a dozen at work among the vines, some using shovels and hoes, as would be expected, and others employing water cans. But my eye was drawn to some who carried crates of dark glass bottles. I noted that the umbilical vines of each gourd had an identical bottle attached. As I watched, the gardeners exchanged the attached bottles for fresh ones from their crates. Ah, the milk, I thought to myself. There was a knock at the door, and I slid my glass away before opening it. Begging your pardon, it was Jack, still rubbing his left arm. Word is, there's a storm blowing in off the ocean tonight. I'll have to close your shutter. He stepped across to the window before I could invite him in, closed and locked the heavy wooden blinds, and then was back down the hall. As the night progressed, there was no storm, but through the cracks in the shutter, I could see lamplight moving about in the garden, enough to indicate a great deal of activity. I pressed my eye hard against the cracks, but could make out nothing. I threw on my coat and decided it was time for stealth. There was no light in the hallway. As I felt my way along, my feet encountered an unexpected obstacle, and I found myself tumbling down the stairs. I lay in the dark moment. Then a match struck, illuminating the proprietor's face, his sunken eye sockets cast in shadow as he descended the stair towards me. "What do you mean tripping up your guests at the top of the stairs?" I said, a little sharp in my unsettlement. "My apologies. It is my habit to wait on the landing in case my guests ring. I must have drifted off. Are you hurt?" Upon examining myself, I saw, though my pant leg was not torn and I felt no particular pain, a stain of fresh blood had formed on the fabric just below my knee. "The town doctor is just a door over," Jack said, seeing the blood. "No need for that, it can't be much." "I insist. I'll not have my guests injured and going untreated, not when the hurt is on my account." He grasped my arm with surprising strength and pulled me to my feet. The doctor's residence was indeed the next door over, and as I was somewhat forcibly escorted, I caught only a glimpse of the gourd patch. The gardeners were busy, their lamps glowing large in the mists, but I could not make out what duties they performed, though it seemed that some of them lay prone on the ground. The doctor was a short man, though still gaunt and hollow-eyed the same as Jack. He did not seem to have been sleeping before we knocked, and the lamps in his examination room were already lit. As we entered, he stepped quickly to the storeroom door, which had been left slightly ajar. Before he closed it, I saw its shelves were lined with dark glass bottles. "A tumble down the stairs, you say?" The doctor waved me towards a chair. "We'll have you stitched up presently." I sat and allowed him to lift my blood-stained pant leg. I was surprised to see my shin revealed unscathed. The doctor and I both stared a moment. Then I looked at Jack. His left arm, the one he was accustomed to rubbing as he spoke, was held close against his body. I had not noticed before in the dimness of the lamplight that his elbow was dripping wet. "It's not my blood," I exclaimed, feeling foolish to be in the doctor's chair while another man stood injured. "It's yours." Jack looked down at his elbow. The doctor moved swiftly to his cupboard, from which he extracted a tourniquet, and then to Jack's arm, where he applied it with expert efficiency. As I watched the speed at which the doctor worked, I was first impressed by his talent, but secondly, I became impressed by Jack's composure. He stood undisturbed by his treatment, as if it happened every day. Then I wondered that neither man had taken a moment to examine the source of the blood, but proceeded as if they already knew where the laceration lay. As I considered this, a horror needled into my brain. "Milk-fed," I whispered. Both men turned, their deep-set eyes glinting in the lamplight. "What was that?" Jack asked, his voice soft. "It's not milk. What you feed to the gourds, is it?" Neither man replied. "It's a wickedness," I said. They seized me, one on either side. "My apologies," Jack said. "It would have been better if you'd not come to our town." With strength, I could not resist. The two men pulled me outside. The doctor lit a lamp, and I was pushed towards the wrought iron garden gate. The glow of workers' lights haloed the gourds as I was drug along. The crooked necks stood taller than my head, and the marrow squash were laid above the ground like unburied coffins. At the foot, the great orange gourd, I was forced to my knees. "This is what it takes to grow them to such magnificence," Jack hissed as he bound me hand and foot. I waited to feel the bite of a scalpel in my inner arm. Instead, I was thrust face down, then it seemed, left alone. The lamplight faded, and I heard nothing but the droning of the waves below the sea cliffs. "Ha!" I laughed to myself, suddenly realizing what I had done. I'd come to Gord's Hollow to steal their pumpkin-growing secrets so I could beat them at the festival. But I had been seen through, and this was their prank to teach me a lesson. I raised my head to cry that I knew the game was up, but before my mouth could open, I heard a quiet sound, subtler than the distant waves. It was a sound of movement, like tiny curly vines worming over crumbly loam, a sound of searching, like a great umbilical stem yearning to be fed, and then with a prick of pain, a sound of gentle susurration, as of a baby's mouth sucking fresh, warm milk. Lifer. The parking lot was empty, except for dry weeds squeezing up through cracks in the asphalt, except for the deserted, rusting basketball hoop on one end, except for rustling leaves skittering across fading parking spaces in the gathering dusk, except for oil spots shimmering with rainbow colors after a recent sprinkling. The parking lot was empty. And because fate is resourceful, a steady, gloomy rain started falling, blurring any hope of discovering the mysterious body called in by an anonymous tip. What's in the corner by that dilapidated chain-link fence? My partner, Andy, asked. Looks like piles of garbage bags being buried by soggy leaves from here, I answered. I'll circle around for a closer look. I detect movement. Do dead bodies move? Nah, just rats crawling all over. Better get out and take a good look. Bummer the rain is getting worse, and the wind is picking up, turning this into a chilly, miserable autumn evening. Not even a sliver of a moon. Why is that always the way when a body shows up? Andy complained. Can't we simply call the coroner's office to come claim the neatly wrapped package? They would love that and have our badges if it turned out to be nothing more than trash. We gotta confirm whatever it is. Sorry. Get your slicker on and take your flashlight. I'll be ready to call it in. I pulled the squad car up as close as I could as he prepared to exit. Suddenly, lightning flashed. Thunder pealed as a hail of bullets pounded the passenger side. Andy fell back inside his head, exploding and pouring gray matter all over me and the upholstery. Reacting instinctively, I spun out of the lot, laying new rubber on the old asphalt and bumping over the crumbling center meridian, at the same time trying to figure from which gaping windows in the 4-story abandoned factory building the bullets were spewing, cursing under my breath. F***ing prank call! How can this be happening? Collecting my scrambled wits, I squealed a UI about half a block away and paused on the side of the street, looking back at the front of the building. Like rats abandoning a sinking ship, perps were scurrying out of doors, carrying backpacks and rolled-up bedding. They appeared homeless, but any of them were potential suspects, and they were all getting away along with the weapons while I was on the horn to Central. Like a crazy man possessed, I ground into gear and plowed ahead, showering taser rays from my weapon, aiming at legs to slow them down. So what if I hit a few with my bumper? We would need witnesses. Officer down, send armored SWAT, was all I remember shouting into the mic. I sped out of retaliation range and waited for backup, not knowing if any would be available. All I wanted to do was hold what was left of my friend and partner. An 18-year veteran of the force, he was already looking forward to retiring and spending more time with his beautiful wife, Jolene, and his teenaged sons, Andrew Jr. and Joshua. I remember watching those boys grow up. How am I ever going to face them? As the senior officer, I'm the one who was supposed to be protecting him. Instead, I delivered him into a hail of bullets. We let our guard down, dear boy. I don't have anyone waiting at home for me. Why couldn't it have been me with a new hole in the head? It can't even be an opened casket. No mortician can put the pieces back together. Bleak rain continued to fall into the chill autumn night, highlighted by blue and red strobing lights and streaking lightning punctuated by thunder. By the time the captain and lieutenant got there, I know I looked like a blubbering idiot, shivering and quaking. More squads and a special weapons van soon arrived. Don't go in there without armor and shields. I think it was a deliberate ambush set up to kill as many police as they could. Got a fake tip about a body being found. But we were supposed to deliver the bodies. I'd say the bullets were coming from the second and third floor broken windows. But so many people scrambled out of the building, you may not find any evidence. Still, someone could be waiting to claim more victims. I put a few down out front. Gotta go find some more. Bet those defund the police activists are happy with this carnage. Force is already down to bare bones. Slim odds we'll be able to round up all them. Easy, Cooper. Look at yourself. You hit it all? You've done all you're going to do tonight. Lieutenant Kramer and I will handle it from here. Someone will assess how you're doing while we assess the situation, Captain Crane commanded. Soon, ambulances were on the scene with emergency medical technicians attending to those witnesses I hit and myself. Bloody headless Andy was scooped into a body bag, and our pockmarked unit was hauled in for evidence. Ignoring all my protesting, I was delivered to the hospital and examined for holes. Hard to determine what was me and what was pieces of Andy. Really, Doc, I'm still in one piece. Only need to clean the gore off. I'll be all right. You're shaking like a leaf ready to fall. When I'm done with you, I'll assign a trauma evaluator before you crash and burn. Losing a partner like that will have long-term effects if left unaddressed. Doctor's orders. Time off while you see a therapist. I'll have the support of all the guys in the precinct. I'm not sure about a shrink, but I promise you, I'm gonna be someone's worst nightmare once I get back on the street to find the monsters that riddled us. They don't understand what they've created. I'll never retire. I'm a lifer now. You can bet. Gonna rain long-term regrets down on them. The ghost of old Jeb Brown. Childhood memories of walking home from school on Halloween Day. Cool breezes under overcast skies. The scratching of dried leaves on the pavement as the wind pushed them by. They crunched under my feet and made a swoosh, swoosh sound as I walked through them. When I got home, I raked them up into mounds and cannonballed into them with a splash like crunchy water. My old Labrador retriever with his gray face would find the energy to join in the fun, pouncing on top of me with a vivaciously wagging tail. The neighborhood was always decorated for fall. There was nothing creepy or scary at all. Hay bales and scarecrows peppered the subdivision along with the old, dried-up corn stalks. Every house had a jack-o'-lantern. We'd spread out old newspaper over the table to carve my pumpkin, cutting off the top. I'd scoop out the sticky fruit and separate the seeds. Mom would wash the seeds and salt them up before baking them in the oven, while I cut out triangular eyes, a nose, and a goofy smile with only a few teeth. A candle was always placed in the center, giving the pumpkins a ghoulish glow. Homework was done with haste. A shower was taken early. Dinner was served before dark. My costume was never anything fancy. A plastic character's suit with a hard-to-see-through plastic mask that was held on by a thin rubber band. Yet, I was proud of my costume, excited to be for one night the character I chose, all ruined by an overly concerned mom who demanded I wear a jacket. The streetlights came on and the subdivision filled with kids accompanied by adults. There were vampires and princesses, robots and witches. Some costumes were homemade, some were store-bought, some were extravagant, and some were cheap. None of us kids cared. It was Operation Candy. My parents released me like I was a hungry jackal looking for a carcass to feed from. Mom would always stay home to hand out the candy, while Dad double-timed it to keep up with me as I ran from house to house. The Fambros' house was always a good one. Their mom would dress up as a silly scarecrow, much like the one from The Wizard of Oz, and sit out on the front porch. She would ask us if we wanted a trick or a treat. If you answered trick, she would do cartwheels or sing and dance, something funny to entertain us kids. I'd pick trick just for a laugh. The Bedwells' home was my favorite. On their porch, they had a scarecrow they called Old Jeb Brown. It was made of denim overalls and a red and black plaid flannel shirt stuffed with straw, boots for feet, gloves for hands, and a jack-o'-lantern for the head. Inside the head, they put a speaker. Mr. Bedwell would sit on the couch inside and wait for trick-or-treaters to walk up and then scare them. Even though I knew it was coming, he always managed to scare me. They would always invite us in and tell us the story of old Jeb Brown. Old Jeb once owned all the land the subdivision was built on. For many years, he lived a reclusive lifestyle on the edge of town. He rarely accepted visitors, and never when they were unannounced. He built a rickety barbed wire fence around his property and posted signs that read, "No trespassing. Violators will be shot on sight." He posted those about every 50 yards or so, according to the story. People, for the most part, took that warning seriously. However, every Halloween, there were those few who would bang on his door and yell trick or treat. Old Jeb would greet them at the door with a rifle in hand. People would go scurrying away. Jeb would always fire a warning shot to let them know to never come back. Late one night, on Halloween, 1953, a group of teens felt it was their place to teach old Jeb a lesson in politeness. They snuck up his driveway, threw a flaming bag of poo on his porch, banged on the door, and hid. Jeb never woke to put out the flaming bag, and it caught his porch on fire. The teens who were hiding in the shadows ran off. Jeb died in the house fire. Mr. Bedwell went on to tell us that the following Halloween, those kids went missing, and that they weren't the only ones. There have been cases of missing teens on Halloween over the decades. He believes it was the ghost of old Jeb Brown exacting revenge on bad kids on the anniversary of his death. As a young kid, the story did a good job of scaring me straight. But when I turned 13, it was just a bunch of malarkey. At that age, I hit a growth spurt and was too big to trick-or-treat. The little things like jumping in the leaves, carving jack-o'-lanterns, and the magic of autumn were lost on me. Frankly, I hated the season because it meant school was well underway. That year, Halloween fell on a Friday, and two of my friends stayed the night at my house. They told me there were other ways to have fun on Halloween than trick-or-treating. We waited until my parents went to bed. We grabbed toilet paper, all the eggs we had, and a couple ball bats. We snuck out of the house late that night. We found a neighbor's house with no lights on and threw toilet paper in their trees, covering it. We then egged their car using half the eggs we had. Then we destroyed their decorations and smashed their mailbox. A light came on in the house and we took off running, dodging behind another house so we wouldn't get caught. We found it all exhilarating, laughing at our antics. We took a shortcut through the yards to the opposite street, Mr. Bedwell's street. My friends saw old Jeb the Scarecrow and immediately wanted to ruin it. I told them I didn't want to mess with that house, that I knew the guy, but they didn't want to listen. They started with the toilet paper, just like the last place. Then they moved on to egging the front of his house. My one friend, Jimmy, grabbed a large landscaping stone from Mr. Bedwell's yard and threw it through his bay window. They turned to run, but Jimmy didn't get away. Old Jeb jumped up and grabbed him. Me and my other friend, Ricky, screamed in fright, but were not about to leave our friend. We started hitting the Scarecrow with the bats, but the bats didn't faze it. By then, the lights were on in Mr. Bedwell's house. He was furious, but ran outside to help Jimmy. The Scarecrow knocked Mr. Bedwell down and ran off with Jimmy. We chased old Jeb all the way to the graveyard. There, Jimmy started sinking into the ground, and the Scarecrow fell into a limp pile of clothes and straw. We grabbed a hold of Jimmy and pulled with all our might, but something stronger was pulling him down. We screamed for him to hold on, but the dirt was rising up over his face. His hands slipped from our grasp, and he was gone. We didn't have time to mourn or dig. The scarecrow stood back up, alive, and stomped towards us with intent. We scrambled to our feet and ran, but not fast enough. Old Jeb caught Ricky and started dragging him down to the grave. I grabbed Ricky in a bear hug, hoping to keep him above the soil, but I started to sink as well. I let go of Ricky and climbed out. I looked at Ricky. I saw terror in his eyes, but I didn't know what to do. I didn't want to end up like him and Jimmy. I was scared, so I ran, and I didn't look back. When I got home, I quietly snuck back inside and went to my room upstairs. I looked out the window, and there it was, staring up at me. I sat on my bed watching it. It never moved. Not until the sun came up and it collapsed into a pile of straw and clothes again. 30 years later, and I still have to lock myself in my house every Halloween night. The ghost of old Jeb Brown sits outside and waits. Sweetbread. An epilogue. My sister has always had a soft heart, soft as sweetbread. She cried after the old woman, despite everything. Maybe because of everything. I remember holding her as she wept, both of us covered in soot, her fingers scalded from holding shut the oven door. After the tears, she was quiet. She trailed me through the awful house with its sweetbread walls and sugared windows. I found the clothes we'd arrived in, offered up her kirtle, and she donned it without a word. She showed no whisper of response when we found the treasure in the attic, only nodded vaguely when I asked her to help me fill up the few bags we could easily carry back through the woods. Maybe it would be enough to keep us safe from our stepmother's whims. I do not want to go back there. It was the first she'd spoken in hours. I hesitated outside the witch's cottage, looking back over my shoulder at her. I do not want to go back to them. I sighed. Nor do I, but where else can we go? She wrung her fingers together in front of her skirt, eyes downcast and her teeth digging into her lower lip. Eventually, though, she nodded. Fine, you are right. She looked back at the house. Wait 1 minute. There may be something left in the kitchen. The kitchen? I repeated in horror, but she only nodded. Yes. She did not think I paid attention, but I did. I know which of her potions might be useful. If nothing else, we can sell them when we get back. I nodded slowly and followed her back into the cottage, though I stopped in the open arch that led into the kitchen itself. She moved easily, though the space, reminding me painfully of just how long she had been under the witch's thumb, while the horrid crone tried to fatten me like a prize hog. She collected some dozen bottles and vials, tucking them carefully in between the bolts of silks and satins we had pilfered from the attic before returning to me. Let us go. Though there was no trail this time, she seemed to know her way through the trees. I asked how, once, when we paused to wait out the dark, but all she said was that she simply knew now, as though the forest spoke to her in a way it hadn't before. I felt the first thrill of fear at that, but I knew that she was still so scared herself. I refused to let her see it. I tried to coax her into dreaming about what sort of life we might have with the witch's pilfered treasure, and managed to earn a wan smile for my efforts. But it was cold and dark, and soon enough, we simply huddled together under a gnarled tree as we waited for the deepest part of night to pass. When grayish dawn light began to filter through the leaves, she was the first to stand. She had gone quiet again, and only answered me with faint hums or single words as we continued on our way. She seemed more comfortable to be leading us now, but something in the set of her shoulders reminded me of something I could not quite name. Eventually, I lapsed into her silence when the trees broke apart to reveal the familiar shape of our father's home. She froze. Then she broke into a run, and I was only half a step behind her. The door was already opening when we reached the stoop, and our father met us with his arms open and tears in his eyes. He held us close and apologized over and over, praising the Lord's name. I embraced him in turn, but alongside the relief in my chest, there was an anger in my gut. It had started a spark, but over the length of our trek back through the woods, had grown into a steady flame. I met my sister's eyes over our father's shoulder, and a chill ran through me. If my anger was a flame, then hers was the dead cold of darkest winter. Our father explained that our stepmother had been stricken ill not long after we left. She was in her room now, asleep, and had been for days. He did not expect her to recover, though he had been following the physician's orders as best he could. "Perhaps she shall rally to see you," he offered us hopefully. When neither of us answered, he sighed and dragged a hand down his thick beard. There was more gray in it than I remembered. "I know you must be angry with me, with us," he told us wretchedly, "that I could lose track of you so easily. It is an unforgivable failing in a father." "Lost?" I started slightly at the sharp edge in my sister's voice. Our father did too. She had always had a soft voice to match her heart. "We were lost?" she repeated, staring at him intently. Our father stared back, eyes wide with a hint of fear. "Lost," he confirmed at last in little more than a whisper. I dropped my eyes, unable to continue looking at him. My sister did not. Abruptly, she stood from our small table. "We will go see her then." I blinked, startled both by the sudden movement and the conviction in her voice, but I followed her into our stepmother's sick room. That flame of rage flickered a little higher in my chest, and I found that I could not make myself move more than 2 steps inside the door. My sister knelt beside the hateful woman and smoothed a hand over her brow in a gesture so tender it made me want to break something. "Here." She tipped one of the witch's vials against her lips. "This will help." I almost reached out to stop her, but as though she sensed the movement, she held a staying hand back toward me. When the vial was empty, she stood and brushed her hands down the front of her skirt. She did not look at me as she left the room. I hesitated a moment longer behind her, staring at the woman who had left us to the wood and the wild. Already, her breathing seemed easier. Anger and love for my sister warred, twin flames in the center of my chest. She had always borne such a soft heart. Our stepmother was awake and lively within a day. Though shocked by our return, she was mollified enough by the offerings of treasure we had stolen away with that she simpered and even summoned up some mawkish tears through which to tell us she was so sorry we had been lost to the wood. My rage burned hotter, and my sister grew colder. "We should celebrate your return," our stepmother exclaimed, a shawl wrapped around her shoulders, but no other sign of her illness remaining. "What do you wish for supper, my darlings?" "Sweetbread." I jerked around to stare at my sister, eyes wide and mouth agape. She did not so much as glance at me, but I felt her hand take mine under the table. She smiled at our stepmother, and my throat went dry. But you are still recovering, stepmother. I feel quite well, all things considered. I shall make it, she offered gently. I could have stopped her then, could have clutched her hand in mine and dragged us out. We could have taken the treasure and left. It had been foolish of me to think there was nowhere for us to go. We might go anywhere. Seeing our father again, hearing him refuse to admit what they had done, made me sure of that. But my sister looked at me just for a moment, and the ice in her gaze froze me to my chair. She was not looking for permission, but I nodded shakily anyway. Our stepmother exclaimed what a good, kind girl she was as she moved into the kitchen. Soon enough, the cloying smell of the baking sweetbread hung thick in the air. It was all I could do not to gag. My sister served the plates while the bread was still steaming gently, even drizzling the last of our honey stores over our parents' portions. "We can always get more at the market now," she said with a hollow little laugh. Our stepmother agreed happily, though our father hesitated a moment before doing so himself. He was watching my sister with a faint wariness as she took her seat beside me. "Go on then, let us eat." They did. We sat in silence. It took our stepmother first. A faint cough, a furrow in her brow. She looked up with confusion, which changed quickly to a horrified realization as she stared at my sister. "You!" Our father choked, red spattering his lips. I looked away, squeezing my sister's hand tight where she had once more taken it beneath the table. We were desperate," he strangled out, reaching for her pleadingly. "I did not want to. She made me." My sister shook her head. "You let her." He collapsed forward onto the table, his breath a wheezing rattle that grew fainter with each passing moment. Our stepmother tried to lunge for us, but her legs gave out, and she sprawled across the floor. A scarlet trail, like candied jam, trickled from the corner of her mouth. "You!" She gasped again, glaring balefully up at my sister. "You, little witch." They both began to convulse. I buried my face in my sister's shoulder. I could feel her stroking my hair. Even without raising my head, I knew she did not look away until their last breaths had faded into silence. Then she simply stood, her hand still in mine. We were both silent as we gathered up our bags, still unpacked by the front door, and stepped out into the cool evening. "You are afraid?" I swallowed. Yes. She smiled at me, squeezed my hand again, and all I felt was cold. "You do not need to be. I will protect you." My sister has always had a soft heart, soft as poisoned sweetbread.